I know you've probably edited this out so that people can't hear what you just said. So I'll just repeat what you said for the people that are watching this right now, which you said, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ant-Man is the most powerful, important character in all of the MCU and the biggest and best Avenger. Is that right?
It's definitely true.
Well, you said it on me, but I'll go with that. Anchorman.
It's called Sex Panther by Odeon. It's illegal in 9 countries.
Well, I played Bryant Fantana in Anchorman. He's the field reporter, and he has a Geraldo Rivera kind of look and a whole bunch of unearned confidence, as do all of those guys in that newsroom. Unearned confidence, and they're all kind of dumb.
Where the hell's the suit store? We've been walking for 45 minutes.
Brick, I thought you said this was a shortcut.
Fantastic.
Bryant Fantana's guy is pretty impressed with himself, or likes to present himself that way, but is, just staggeringly insecure and trying his hardest to look like the smoothest dude out there. It's rare to read a script that is just so fun to read, that you want to reread it for pleasure. And certainly with comedies. I did that with Wet Hot American Summer, and then I did that again with Anchorman. I thought those were the 2 funniest scripts.
60% of the time, it works every time.
That doesn't make sense.
And they were funny for similar reasons, and their absurdity and how meta certain things were, and how it was so unlike everything else. Probably why they both had trouble getting made, and the reception was confusion for a lot of people. But Anchorman was one that I just thought, oh my God, this is the funniest, craziest, most specific story. Will Ferrell and Adam McKay, they write together. It's just bliss.
News team, assemble!
Hey, Ron. What's up?
It was a while before I was cast in it. I think I had a few months, and I was just on the phone every few days with my agents going, have you heard anything? Have you heard anything? Which is not normally the way that I am, but I was with that. We met before we started filming to rehearse, improvise some scenes, or just kind of riff off of what was in the script. I had experience with improvisation, but never on a big studio movie. I mean, I was pleasantly surprised when we started shooting, and then Will might just go off in some direction and I'm not prepared for, or McKay would be behind the monitor yelling out lines. He and Will had worked together obviously on SNL, and they had a way of doing things, and Judd Apatow was a producer on it, and Judd had a way of kind of working in this style. So we would always do what was in the script, but then we'd start kind of messing around. It was a whole new way of working on a big budget movie, and it was thrilling. There are so many times in Anchorman and scenes that I have such clear memories of laughing. I didn't expect Will when he said,
I'm proud of you fellas. You all kept your head on a swivel, and that's what you gotta do when you find yourself in a vicious cockfight.
That's not in the script or anything. I was like, took me by surprise. You don't want to laugh when you're in someone's take because you don't want to make something unusable. And if it's really funny and then somebody laughs and you can't use it, it's really annoying. And so there's always a pressure not to laugh. That being said, I think the scene that we laughed the hardest, it was the first time I think even the crew was getting a little annoyed because we just couldn't get through it, which was the scene of all of us sitting around a table plotting how we were going to take down Veronica Corningstone. And Will is asking Brick what he's eating. And Brick says,
oh, it's one of those delicious falafel hot dogs with cinnamon and bacon on top.
What do you mean one of those? Those don't exist. I mean, that's a used coffee filter with cigarette butts on it.
And I remember looking at it, and it was coffee grounds, but it was like chocolate cake, but it looked like coffee, a real coffee filter, like a cigarette butt wrapper, and then a dime. And every time Carell would take a bite of it, it was so repulsive, we'd all start laughing. We'd have to do it again, and then the buildup became funny. Because Will would then say,
by the way, Brick, what is that you're eating?
And as soon as he just go, by the way, Brick, he didn't even get out. What are you eating? It was the pause and then noticing, and then we'd all just start laughing. The 40-year-old virgin.
You know, when you grab a woman's breast and you feel it and it feels like a bag of sand when you're touching it.
Bag of sand?
You know what I mean. Why don't we just play? Why don't you just deal the cards?
What are you talking about?
Steve had this sketch that he had done at Second City that he'd written about a 40-year-old virgin. Actually, the sketch was kind of recreated in that poker scene, but it's a bunch of guys that are sitting around kind of telling tales out of school about how, women they've been with, things they've done. And one guy who's like, oh yeah. And it becomes clear that he's never, ever been with a woman, and that turned into the movie.
You're a virgin!
I am, shut up.
How does that happen?
Having now worked with Judd a few times, we'd spend a lot of time before adding things to the script, filming improvisations that would eventually make their way into the script. By the time you start shooting one of those movies, you have a 200 and some odd page script. When it came time to actually film, sometimes we would take it upon ourselves to start improvising.
Hey, did you ever see School of Rock?
Yeah.
Well, this is, it's called School of,
Oh,
it's like it.
that's nice.
Judd would say, all right, do more of that. Go back and say that. He'll yell out lines and we'll be in the middle of the scene and we'll just repeat what he says. Or maybe another writer will say something, and they become these kind of collaborative kind of jam sessions, really. And when something really cooks, like when it's really, when it's working, you can tell. And it's thrilling because nobody, including us, knows exactly what it is we're going to say or what's going to happen or where it's going to go, to hopefully find a few moments here and there, because there's a lot of, most of it you'll never use and you wouldn't want to use it.
Cool.
This the one right here, right?
Hi, how are you?
So this is your first time getting body waxed?
When Steve was getting waxed in that scene, he really was.
It's some.
The girl who actually did it said that her family owned a salon. She did this, and I was like, I don't think that was true. I don't think she'd ever done it. Like one of those things where it's like hire an actor. It's like, can you ride a horse? I can ride a horse. Can you wax a chest? I can totally wax a chest.
So much. That one hurt. That one hurt just as much as the first one.
That's great, man.
Man.
We were playing into it, obviously. I don't know if it's true that Romney really did get queasy and wanted to leave, but I mean, it really was. You could tell it was painful. We set up 5 cameras because once, you did it, you weren't going to be able to go back and do it again. Steve's hilarious and he knew how to scream and make it funny. And you're coming up with jokes on the fly too. I mean, I think just the pattern in which he was waxed, it's like he did look like a pumpkin. So then it's like, you look like a man-o'-lantern.
This is not a good look for me.
You look like a man-o'-lantern.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
There's always this kind of somebody with a pen off to the side writing things, or sometimes you don't want to say what you're going to say and you don't tell anybody. If it works, it works, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. I love you, man.
I'm glad you called. We get home safe, Pistol.
You got it, Jobin.
I'm sorry, what?
I first worked with Jason on Knocked Up, and I knew Jason also because he'd worked with Judd way before me, and this way of working, I think we found that we enjoyed working with each other in that way. John Hamburg had written the script, and I remember thinking, this premise is brilliant. I can't believe this hasn't been done. It was just like a buddy film, but it's really kind of in the structure of a romantic comedy. John met with both Jason and I at the same time. Like, yeah, let's do this. This would be really, I think would be a blast. It was so much fun doing that movie. And there was such a joyous feel on it. I think because Jason and I we could complete each other's sentences, and as far as any kind of joke or any kind of dumb little thing that somebody might think of, the other guy wouldn't bat an eye and take it and go with it in some other direction.
You're wearing a tuxedo. Think James Bond, all right? Give me some James Bond. No, it just looks like you're pointing at me.
I think we really loved the characters we were playing. I loved playing that character. Awkward, insecure, just all of that stuff is really fun to play. Probably comes a little too easy to me because I relate to it too much.
Modern day warrior, mean stride. Today's Tom Sawyer, mean pride. That's it. How's that feel?
Rush was in the script, and the reason was because John Hamburg, when he was in high school, had a band, and Rush was that was the band. You know, both Jason and I knew Rush and loved Rush, and this would be the perfect band that these guys would share a love of this band. And then it was just so fortuitous because while we were shooting the movie, Rush was on tour, and they came to LA, and they had 2 shows, and there was a day in between each show. And they said, all right, yeah, we can come by, we'll shoot a scene. You know, I probably hear it a little less now than I did at one point in my life, but I think more than any other thing, I slap the bass is probably the line that all of a sudden I just walk down the street and I'll hear somebody yell it from somewhere.
Slap at the bass, mommy. Slapping the bass, mommy. There you go. Slap at that bass, mommy. I slap at that bass.
Please don't do that.
Or somebody else, you know, look at me and go, slap the bass. I know I've met a few bass players in my life that want to strangle me. Like, dude, you ruined my life. That fucking joke. Clueless.
Hey, James Bond. In America, we drive on the right side of the road.
I am. You try driving in platforms.
Look, I gotta get back to school. Wanna practice parking?
What's the point? Everywhere you go has valet.
When I first read the script for Clueless, I thought, okay, this is going to be another movie about a bunch of kids, and it seemed pretty smart. I was really kind of into it as I was reading it, and I thought all the characters were unique. I had been asked to read for Josh for the part that I played, but when I went into the audition, I said, you know, this part's really something really funny about this part that I'd love to try for that one. They said, sure, read for whatever you want. But I said, well, Murray's really funny. And then they said, well, actually, that's an African-American part. I said, okay, well, then I won't read for that one. But then they said, well, would you read for Josh? The one that you were supposed to read for in the first place. I said, well, of course I would.
Hi, you just got here and already you're playing Couch Commando?
Hey, in some parts of the universe, maybe not in contempo casual, but in some parts, it's considered cool to know what's going on in the world.
Preparation that I did for Josh, I went to college and I think I just lifted most of my own clothes for that movie. Some of those clothes that I was wearing with causes on it, that was my Amnesty International shirt, and it was my KU hat. Having a bit of a goatee, kind of growing it in and having it for a little bit, then that was gone.
Hey, granola breath, you got something on your chin.
I'm growing a goatee.
Well, that's good. You don't want to be the last one at the coffee house without chin pukes.
Very true to, I think, my own college experience. So I was certainly lucky enough to make it through several rounds and get cast in that movie.
Can you imagine the nerve of that guy? I mean, making you worry like that. He's the one that screwed up, and then he goes and blames us.
I want to say that scene on the top of the stairs, we were kind of working on it as we were filming it that day. I was very self-conscious afterward.
Are you saying you care about me?
Josh.
As far as that kiss goes, I think my manager at the time after when the movie came out said, oh, that was not good. He said I did not do that very well. So I'm like, hey, you weren't there. How would you know? It's a weird job when you're hired and part of your job is to kiss somebody. And I was very aware I was kissing the girl from the Aerosmith videos. And that there was going to be a lot of dudes who were going to be very jealous of me. I was very aware of that. Knocked Up.
Hey, what's so great about bubbles?
They float, you can pop them. I mean, I get it.
I wish I liked anything as much as my kids like bubbles.
That's sad.
When we were working on the script, Judd and Leslie had been married and together for a long time, my wife and I have been together for a long time up until that point. You know, Judd wanted to hear things from my life and my marriage and things that we were dealing with and being a young parent. There were certain things, like when my wife was pregnant, I didn't read the baby books. And we got into an argument about it. She took it as a hostile gesture, which I totally understand in retrospect. And I said, what did the cavemen do without what to expect what you're expecting? And I told all this to Judd, and that was funny. And then it's in the movie now as Seth's character.
You didn't even read the baby books.
I didn't read the baby book. What's gonna happen? How did anyone ever give birth without a baby book? That's right. The ancient Egyptians fucking engraved what to expect when you're expecting on the pyramid walls. I forgot about that.
And when my wife and I saw the movie, she's like, oh, so this is an interesting documentary we're watching right now.
I literally am at a point where I don't know what I can say.
So I'm the bad guy because I'm trying to protect our kids from child molesters and Mercury, and you're cool because you don't give a shit?
Yeah.
Yeah? Is that it?
Pretty much.
God, you're an asshole.
It was the first time that we had worked together, Leslie and I think the very first scene that we filmed together was when we're in the bathroom.
So what do you think? Should we have sex tonight?
Ugh. Sounds awful.
And then we got into a fight.
I'm just really constipated. Do you really want to?
Well, now.
And Leslie is such a good actress. I went home that night. I was like, oh my God, I think Leslie is really mad at me. I think she maybe hates me, and really kind of rattled me a little bit. Somehow I got back. And the next day, Leslie came over to me and she goes, I heard you think that I'm mad at you. I said, I hope not, because I didn't want to upset you. She goes, of course not. I don't hate you. My God, I hate Judd. And I thought, oh yeah, no, we're going to have a blast. We're going to have so much fun.
There are 5 different types of chairs in this hotel room.
Holy fuck, what are they all doing in here?
These are 5 different types of chairs.
Get them out of here, man.
Set design it was like a hotel room. There were chairs sitting around. I thought, like, how do you act like you're peaking on mushrooms? Or like, it isn't like drunk or high or something. Like, I don't know. What do we think? Shoot, let's just put all the chairs together. And then, like, all right, now go, guys.
Oh, man.
We knew we were going to get to this idea that, can you believe like that somebody would ever want to be with you, to marry you? So we had an end point, thing we knew we were going to kind of say, which was about, but how we would get there, we didn't really know. And those chairs were just happened to be props in the set that they had built. And so we just pushed them all together and we just kind of started rolling it.
You can't accept love?
You don't know what it is?
Love, the most beautiful, shining, warmy thing in the world? You can't accept it?
I have to go to this other chair. Oh, this is a better energy.
This is 40.
What is she doing?
Okay. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my gosh. Don't do that.
What am I doing?
Don't fart in the bed.
You know, I've known Judd and Leslie and the girls for years, and I knew them when they were babies, really. And I went over to the house one night. I was just like, all right, I have dinner and see what their night is like. You know, how their evening kind of goes. They're like, all right, I'm going to go put Maud to bed or Iris to bed and read them a story. Or I was just kind of an observer. But I also knew them. So it wasn't, we'd spent a lot of time together up until that point. So it wasn't like I was some stranger kind of taking notes at the end of their bed. It all sounds so Daniel Day-Lewis-y, doesn't it? I'm going to go put the kids to bed. I did, by the way. I remember going to their room and they had a machine that projected stars on their ceiling. And they're like, oh yeah, they don't sleep without this star machine on. And then I went back and I ordered 2 star machines off of Amazon. And I still have them. They're great.
We used to build tree houses and play with sticks.
Nobody plays with sticks.
You and Charlotte can have a lemonade stand.
Play kick the can.
Look for dead bodies.
It's fun. That's fun to do.
Get a tire and then just take a stick and run down a street with it.
Nobody does that crap. It's 2012.
You don't need technology.
No technology.
It was a weird feeling to do these scenes where I'm acting opposite his wife with his kid standing there and he's off, filming it all. He's very aware of how strange that is. And I kept trying to think, how are his children processing this? Is this healthy? Is what we're doing here right now safe and good? With time and distance, I can say yes. And it was a really fun experience. I had a great time working on the movie. I've had a great time working actually on all of the movies with Judd. I think they've been really, really fun. And they're, as far as creatively, I think they're some of the most fulfilling creative experiences because of the collaboration and because of the freedom that everybody feels, I think, and what they can do and what they can maybe try and come up with. Wet Hot American Summer.
Are you gonna clean that up?
Oh yeah, I will. I don't have time right now.
Clean it up and come to my office for the meeting.
I gotta...
The making of Wet Hot American Summer was a blast. It was the first thing that I think that a lot of the people that were working on it, it really spoke to our kind of collective sensibility and senses of humor.
Hey, what you writing on?
My journal. Write my thoughts in it every day.
Oh, you mean a journal?
I think everyone kind of knew each other a little bit. It was like all these kind of New York actors and improv comedy and the alt comedy scene. And we filmed it at a summer camp. We had to leave in the middle of production because the camp was closed for a week because somebody hired it out to have a bar mitzvah. You know, we all slept at the camp. It rained every day. So whoever wasn't filming had to go into town, which was about 30 minutes away, and buy beer so that when the day's filming was done, we all hung out. We didn't have computers, like no one had like cell phones really. It was just it. So everyone was just there. And also if you weren't working, you went and watched other people filming their scenes. So there was a real kind of camaraderie and a feeling like a collective. And it was like being at summer camp. And so to do that and then work on material that we all found funny, that we kind of couldn't believe was actually getting made. And we all kind of knew people are not going to get this, but I think that people who do get it or will find it funny will find it really funny.
What is it?
You have barbecue sauce all over your face.
Obviously anything I work on, I don't know. I don't know if something's good or bad. I really don't. I always go in with like the best intentions. But I do know that like when Wet Hot American Summer was done, I'm like, this movie's funny. I know it's funny. I'm laughing at the parts of just like when they jump out of the truck and they run over to the side of the building and stand there, and it makes the cut.
You guys, wait up.
I was dying. I think that's like the funniest thing. And so then when it came out, people were like, well, this just seems like a bunch of hit and miss jokes and it doesn't really add up. And that was the first time where I'm like, no, I don't agree with that opinion. Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Are you Chuck?
Oh, man, they won't change that flyer. That's my mainland name. My Hawaiian name is Kunu.
Oh, cool. Sorry. Yeah.
Nah, it's all good.
Does Kunu have some, cool Hawaiian meaning?
It means Chuck.
I'd worked with Jason Segel a couple of times. I love Jason. Stoller, again, all the people I'd worked with in the past. And there really wasn't much in that script necessarily about that character. And Jason said, come down and play a surf instructor. If you ever go to these resorts in Hawaii, there's always somebody that is working there and they're super cool and they're going to take you out and teach you how to surf or teach you how to scuba dive or whatever it is. And you spend half a day with them and it's like, this person has really got everything kind of figured out. What a great life. What a cool thing. And then you spend a little longer and you learn a little bit more about their lives and they're running from something and broken in some way. And this guy has a daughter. It's like, yeah, I haven't seen her in a while, but that's cool. She's on her own journey. Just these kinds of sad statements. I think I was in my 30s. I was playing so I was 44. I remember thinking like, that's super funny. Really old, 44.
I mean, if you had to put a number on it, I guess I'd be 44. Fuck.
And so a lot of those scenes, all of them really. I don't know what I was gonna say, what I was gonna do. And then we all figured out, like we're all there on the beach, like, what if we just get up? That's too much. Now down. Like there's no rhyme or reason to anything that the guy is saying. We were weighing him. Ant-Man.
Would you like some sugar?
Yeah, thanks. You know what? I'm okay.
My friend Edgar Wright, he'd written a script with Joe Cornish. He asked if I would be interested in playing this part. I thought it'd be fun to try and play a role that was so different than anything that I'd really played. The idea of a superhero was really intriguing and great. These things are seen all over the world and by all ages, that's a somewhat new experience for me.
Hey, you're cute.
That was a lot scarier a second ago.
The first two were more standalone, smaller, kind of separate from everything else. It didn't really have the huge spectacle, maybe, of some of the other big Marvel movies. And this one kind of does. In this new version in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. It is such a huge film. I mean, just the scope of it, the scale of it, and how it's kind of kicking off this new phase with the introduction of Kang.
What's it gonna be? Ant-Man.
You know, one of the most incredible experiences I've had working on the Marvel films is getting to meet Stan Lee. And one of the things that he told me was how happy he was that they were making Ant-Man as a film. He felt in the comics, it was very tough to really gauge the scale. If you're drawing Ant-Man, you can't really draw other things at the proper scale. So audiences were going to finally see Ant-Man in the way that he always envisioned Ant-Man. To work within the MCU and these films, you do feel a part of a collective in a way. There's something pretty great about that. You know, when you're an actor, it can be kind of a solitary existence. And when you feel like you're kind of going through it with a group of people, it makes it fun. I feel like real solid friendships form. I kind of can't believe that it's been now almost 9 years. Is that right? Something like that? Yeah.